Alright, students, please turn to page 394. Today we will discuss World War I, which started in 1914. It was then known as the Great War.
But teacher,
Yes, what is it?
there is no war in 1914.
What?
The legends have invited you to Lake Laogai.
What the hell is wrong with you?
What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Legends of Tomorrow, Season 7, Episode 7, A Woman's Place is in the War Effort. And by that title, you can obviously tell what this is going to be all about. Girl power! And if you've watched my reviews, you know that anytime the CW tends to do girl power episodes, they tend to not be that good, and this one is no different. It's over the top, it's in your face, it's dumb. I have no problem with women empowerment stories, but you gotta make it make sense. And this does not make it make sense. And it's so focused in on trying to be like women rule, men suck, that it's not entertaining. The only entertaining thing about it really is the fact that Randy Disher is in the show, and his performance is funny because he's just a good comedic actor. He had some great moments. Most of the rest of this is just kind of bland. Didn't really get any good chuckles. Even the whole story with Bishop, I figured something would get me to laugh. At the idea of Nate trying to be a good host, as well as Behrad and Zari kind of helping out too, I figured I'd get something funny out of that story. I didn't. It was just, yeah, he's being a douche. He's being an improper. It's basically that whole, the customer is always right, and then you just watch a customer be a total douchebag and you want to just punch him in the face because of it. That's kind of what it felt like, and that's not that funny to me. It would have been funnier if there were better moments thrown in. But in fact, the only moment that I could think of that I laughed at when in relation to Nate is at the end, whenever he finds out he can't drink in the totem and he does a little spit take. That was about it. Everything else with that story, I mean, again, it's all focused on Nate and Zari, and oh, they're going to live together, guys. Aren't we so happy about that? Oh my goodness, oh, it's so good. Okay, I don't know why this is becoming such a big deal. Again, I have no problem with them as a couple, but my God, we're treating this as if this is like the biggest love story ever, and everybody's all excited, and oh my gosh, celebration. God. Oh, it's sweet. It's fine. We can have, oh, congratulations, man. Everybody's reaction. This has been a love story in the making. Oh my goodness, this is the greatest love story ever told. Oh, he's going to live with her in the totem? Yeah, most guys that are in love would. Why are we acting like this is a huge... I don't know. It just took up a lot of time. And really all this led to was Bishop. He was acting like a douchebag because he was working on something to help them out, but he's not good with social interactions, and that's basically all it was leading toward. And we also have a moment between Behrad and Astra, because I think they've been setting them up as a couple, I guess. But he empowers her and she empowers him. And so that's when he talks back to Bishop, and Astra sets up this thing to welcome everybody and all this. I don't know. It was just kind of bland, predictable in a way. Honestly, whenever Astra took over the factory, I kind of almost knew where everything was going to go. Like, I knew she was going to start doing all this stuff and making it work more efficiently because, hey, women can run things better than men can. So I figured they were going to do that. I figured at some point she'd see the women of color working the janitorial jobs and go, no, they should work together. I figured it was going to work out. So whenever all of or half of the workforce stepped out, all I could think was, okay, so they're still going to get the job done though, right? Even though they lost half the workforce, they can do it even better than the men can. Don't ask me how that logic works, where you lose half your workforce and you still do two jobs in the same time that a whole workforce did one job originally. Don't ask me how that makes sense. It just does, guys, because we're living in the world of fantasy, and everything works out because we want everybody to feel happy. So we're going to change the timeline and make integrated workplaces a thing 2 years before it happened in our timeline, just to put our legends in danger because, changing the timeline like this shows where they are. But sure, let's do it because everybody's going to be happy now in this fictional world. I don't get it. I don't understand what the thinking is. And what really doesn't make sense is I actually really liked the woman that Astra and Spooner were working with. I can't remember her name now. Actually, the only The only name I can really remember in this episode is Staples. And that's just because whenever his name popped up, Mr. E. Staples, I was like, it's a weird name. But I don't remember anybody else's name. But this woman, I really thought she was a good counterbalance because we were seeing Astra almost instantly. She was getting all huffy and puffy. I hate this century. And this woman comes in and it almost kind of added a nice counterbalance where she saw the problems, but she also realized that change doesn't happen overnight. You can't just snap your fingers and, oh, everything's fixed. And yet they still did it anyway. And that's what really frustrated me is they had this moment between Astra and this woman that I thought was really well written because Astra's basically giving her all of her frustration with what's going on. And the woman's been living it. That's what's really frustrating too, is Astra's complaining to this woman who's been living in this life where nobody respects her because of the color of her skin. But she's come to accept it because she has a chance to help now. She has a chance to be a part of it, even if it is still separate. It's getting closer. They're getting closer to where we are now in our real life. But Astra's like, no, it's not fast enough. I want to do it now. And I thought, well, the woman's kind of telling you you can't. And then she leaves. And instead of that being the end of the scene, and Astra kind of wisening up and going, you know what? She's right. I can't rush this. I can't fix this overnight. This is something that it took a while to get fixed. We can make some steps, but we can't just, boom, we're done. But then she has this little smile on her face as the woman's walking out of the room, and I'm going, oh, okay, so we're not doing that then. We're not going to go the route of, hey, use your brain and think. No, we're not doing that. No, we're going to turn off our brains and go, hey, logic, what's that? You guys can do it anyway. 'Cause girl power. What? Why even have her? Why even have such a reasonable, understanding person in this show if you're just going to give her all of these wise words of wisdom for Astra that she's going to completely ignore and then still get her way in the end? They still complete the plane on time, and they do it in front of Eleanor Roosevelt, who then is going to go to Congress and fix this 2 years ahead of schedule. Because, sure, why not? Let's just change history. Oh, wait a minute, because that will put a target on your guys' back. And that's the really dumb thing about it to me, is it was one thing whenever they were changing history because, ooh, they're so mad about all the bigotry that existed back in this time. It was still stupid. At the very least, I could look at it as, okay, they're human, they're reacting to the frustration that they see in front of them. I still think it's dumb, but I understand at least from that mindset. Now, they are in a life or death situation. There is an AI hunting them. Anytime they change the timeline, that puts a target on their backs. And yet they just don't care. They will still do this stupid stuff that puts a target on their back, puts their lives in danger because, oh, well, we got to help people. And again, that's the idea of the show, is to keep the timeline intact. Our heroes right now are actually breaking the timeline. The heroes of the show, the Legends of Tomorrow, that are supposed to be guardians of this timeline, are breaking the timeline to right the wrongs of the injustice of the past. Instead of thinking about it logically and going, no, we learn from our past. If you don't have all these issues in the past, you don't learn from them. It's that whole, if we just make everybody happy, then how do we even know what happiness is? If nobody deals with suffering, nobody deals with pain, how do we know what happiness is? You have to have that part of your life, you have to have that part of history, or else we don't learn from that. But no, we're going to change all of that because it's wrong, and it shouldn't have happened at all. How many brain cells do you think were used on this script? Because I would wager no more than 3. That's between probably 10 people who more than likely wrote this season. I would say 3 brain cells tops, because it makes no sense. It paints our good guys out to be the actual bad guys, since they are trying to change the timeline. They're trying to change history. Again, in my mind, they change all of this. They get back to the present, and the present is just in ruins because they've done all of this stuff that has changed history to such an extent that, oh, none of this bad stuff happened in the past. Well, yeah, that caused bad stuff to happen in the future because nobody knew what not to do when they got to that point again. That's what I imagine would be the case in real life if this were possible. But because this show is all, oh, we're so happy and go lucky here that things are going to work out fine. We're going to help all these people in the past in this fictional show because it makes us feel good. I imagine they're going to get back to the present and be like, you guys fixed everything. The present day is so happy now and there are no problems anywhere because we did this. I would not be surprised if they did it. But I think that is about everything for this episode. Pretty much the two main stories were Astra's storyline trying to work in the factory and trying to make things better, and then Bayrod and Nate trying to have Bishop as a host. Bishop does die at the end of this episode, which I find it was actually dark in a way, which this show has done dark moments before, but it was kind of crazy just to see him put his life on the line and then they grab him, put a gun to his head, and you just hear the gunshot. I'm like, wow, that was not expecting him to die this quickly after turning on Gideon. But we do see that apparently this Gideon that is chasing them has apparently recruited probably robot versions of them. I don't know if that's going to be used at all. I mean, there's this idea that you could put some of these robots in place of the legends, and we may not know who's a robot and who's not. I love stories like that. I don't know if they're going to do that here, but if they do, I hope they do it with a bit more subtlety. But based on this episode, subtlety is not a word that they even know exists, if I'm being honest. Oh, and then the final thing just popped back in my head because I remembered I did want to comment on it because they put in an I Love Lucy reference in here for some reason. And that's why I wanted to comment on it, because they put it in here probably so people would notice and be like, ha! Ha! Do you see the thing? Do you see the thing? They did the I Love Lucy thing where it's the conveyor belt and then she gets all over the top and dramatic and the chocolates are coming too fast and she can't put them on the... Yeah, she's doing that, but it's with bolts on screws. Or actually maybe in washers. I don't know. But I don't know. It just turned into an I Love Lucy sketch for some reason. Why? Because they're in that time period and they wanted to make a reference and they thought it would be funny and it just wasn't. I feel bad for the woman that plays Ava because I think her name's Jess. I think she tried her best to make it funny, but you can't top a classic. You just can't. I'm sorry. But with all that being said, that's it for this episode. On to the next one. I'll see you there. And now episode 8, Paranoid Android. This one was probably my favorite episode of the season, but it also confirms two very frustrating things for me. So first of all, seeing this team is a lot of fun. I think it's a great idea to have these robots think they're the actual legends, thinking that they're hunting down androids that are pretending to be them and messing up the timeline. It's a great idea. It's a lot of fun. The way they handle it, the different personalities that they all have, really great setup. And I think that's why I enjoyed this episode so much, is because of all of that. Even though there are two definite problems. First of all, this episode confirms for me that what the legends are doing, changing the timeline, changing history, rewriting it so that none of the bad stuff in history happened, is a good thing. We should just pretend like nothing bad in history ever happened. Really, the writers woke up and took their stupid pills and then started writing for this season. That's what happened. Yeah, those who don't know their history are doomed to not think about it because it didn't happen. It's insane. It's actually insane that that's what they're doing. Seemingly, that's what they're... Because we're seeing what these legends are doing, trying to fix history, and it's being painted as bad. Ooh, can you imagine? They're going around and killing people because that's what happened in history? How could they? Don't get me wrong, that would be really dark to have to do, but you're fixing history. Because who knows what could happen if you don't let it happen how it did? But of course they're painting it as, oh, well, Gideon's not telling them what could change. Probably because it's something good, and Gideon doesn't want them to know that it's something good, because if they did know that it was something good, then they might not want to change it. But obviously that's what they're going to make it, is all of this stuff that they're changing all the bad stuff in history is going to lead to a very happy future, because we all believe in fantasy world. And I can't. My mind cannot. It is so checked out on this story now that I was only living in the fun moments. I was only living in the moments between Spooner and Bayrod. They're trying to one-up each other when they're all taking bets on how Sarah's going to kill the doctor. That was fun. Seeing Zari and Astra on the ship interacting was a lot of fun. Nate is hilarious as this version of Steel. All of that, I was having a good time, but as soon as it started getting back into the main plot of this season, which is legends are going to change history, and that's a good thing, I checked out. I stopped paying attention. The other thing in this episode is, of course, them realizing that they're androids and Sarah's realization that what they're doing is wrong and all of this stuff. And that was just, I was completely checked out for all of that because, first of all, you're setting this all up so that they'll go after Ava because they think she's programming Gideon to reprogram them to continue to make all these decisions. We already know that's not true. And yet they spend a good 10-15 minutes in this episode theorizing about all of that and why she would do something like that. So that's already, we know that's not the case, so we're just sitting there waiting for them to realize the truth that it's actually Gideon that's doing all of this. On top of that, Gideon is in the whole ship. The only room that she cannot see is the bathroom. The only room that she cannot hear should be the bathroom. And yet, is she just so confident that she can change their minds that she's not trying to stop them? Did she not program some sort of failsafe in? Why did she program personalities in them anyway? When she first started making robots for the timeline, she said humans can't do this correctly. So why did she make them think that they were human? A lot of this doesn't make sense when you start really thinking about it from Gideon's point of view and why she's doing all of this. Why make them have personalities? Why make them think that they're human? Why not just make them robots with one goal? And I guess maybe they're going to play into, well, she wanted to be a part of the team again because there's still that side of her that connected to them, that slightly human side of her, because she is not just an AI, there's something a little bit deeper. I don't know if that's what they're going to do with it. When you think about it from this evil Gideon is very logical and only thinking one way, there's no reason she would have given them human personalities and made them think that they're human. She wouldn't have done that. In fact, I kind of figured since the team is going up against this evil AI, it was going to be a situation where essentially she's always one step ahead of them. She's constantly on their tail. Every single time they do one thing to change the timeline, one tiny little thing, she notices it. She's on top of it. Her programming is keeping her right on their tail. I thought that's how it's going to be until they realized near the end, oh, well, but she can't understand human emotion, so that's how we're going to beat this AI. Like, that's kind of typically how you beat an evil AI. If they're going to imply now that, no, she's not just an AI, and that's why she gave them human personalities, because she has that connection, and she wanted to have a team again that acted human. She didn't want to just be controlling a bunch of robots that are working for her. And I feel like that's not going to be nearly as interesting. Because then they're probably going to try to speak to that human side of her and make her realize that maybe things aren't as bad as she thinks they are. But I feel like it lost me in that moment. All the stuff with the main plot, all the stuff with Gideon creating this other team of legends, I was enjoying it. I was having a good time. And I turned off as soon as we got to some of these main story beats. As soon as Sarah started questioning what they were doing, she was programmed to be an assassin that cared more about saving the timeline than human lives. Why did she suddenly start caring more about human lives than the timeline then? If she is programmed to think this way, oh, well, it's because she's human. Why did Gideon make her human then? I just don't get it. The only possibility I can think of, the only idea that comes to mind that would make any of this make sense is after what happened with the robot Hoover. We saw his brain overload because of what Nate and Zari were doing to him, trying to make him do, or was it Nate and Astra? I don't remember now. But essentially he overloaded because his programming couldn't connect with what he was doing. So I don't know if that somehow ties in, but it doesn't really make sense because she's in control of them. She is overseeing what they're doing, so she should be able to keep their programming from getting too out of whack. But, I mean, really, just Gideon seemed like she had no control over what happened. She just happened to be able to speak to Zari in that moment and convince her not to turn her off. I feel like Gideon should have more power over them than that. I feel like as soon as they start questioning, she should have some ability to flip a switch and then they're turned off. But it doesn't seem like she has that set up. This episode was fun, but when it got back to the main story stuff, it got messy, it got stupid. It started not making any sense at all when you think about it from Gideon's point of view. So I'm just not looking forward to this season, if I'm being honest. I mean, there's already been so much of this BS, oh, we got to change history because it was so bad back in the day, which is just dumb to think about. Like, we're going to change history on this fictional show because that'll make the world a better place, right? Makes no sense. And now you've got this evil Gideon program that's trying to save the timeline by fixing all of the mistakes that the legend are causing by going back and changing history. And somehow that's the bad version. Somehow that's the bad guy for this season. It's the one that's trying to keep history on the same track and is making stupid decisions while doing so. So it's not well written. It's not well done. I feel like they just didn't bring their A game. Like the comedy in this one definitely brought its A game for me. I thought this was probably the best written as far as comedic stuff goes. But when you get back to the main story, it's still the same old BS. Unfortunately, that's where we are right now. We'll see if anything changes, but for now, I've kind of lost my interest in this final season, which sucks because Legends of Tomorrow was a really fun show that didn't feel like it didn't take itself too seriously. They did have a couple of more down-to-earth moments. They did have a couple of moments that felt like it was kind of preachy and stuff, but this season has just been mostly we're going to slap you in the face with our opinion about what history was like and how it should have been. Okay, I'm glad that you think that history should have been changed, but first of all, we can't. Second of all, there's no telling what that would do, what problems that might cause if you did change it. Where we are right now is actually pretty good. It's crazy. There definitely still are crazy people out there. That would not change with you changing history. I promise you that. But it just feels like that's what this final season is all focused on, and that's not really that fun. It's more fun when they're trying to save the timeline, not trying to correct it and make it better. That's not what their job is meant to be. Rightfully so, because we don't know if the changes would actually make anything better or not. But anyway, with all of that being said, on to the final of these 3 episodes. Hopefully just a little bit better, please. I'll see you there. And finally, episode 9, the lowest common Demoninator. Instead of denomin... Yeah, that pun is about as bad as this episode. If you're a fan of reality TV shows, maybe you would have enjoyed this one. I'm not. So instantly, I'm already not tuned into the plot at all. I'm not enjoying myself. I'm not having a good time. Everybody's acting like idiots. And that's why I don't watch reality TV shows, because most of the people on them act like idiots, and that's not fun or funny for me. I had nothing else to watch. That was this entire episode. I realize that might sound kind of harsh, me saying that this is a bad episode because I personally didn't like it. But the fact of the matter is, you have to give even people who are not a big fan of reality shows something to hang on to, something interesting to get me involved. And they didn't do that. The only thing that I reacted to at all, outside of disgust, frustration, or just boredom, was the fact that they censored Gwen doing the crucifix, and then every time they said God or Father or anything like that. That was funny. That was a good touch since they are in hell. Everything else, though, no interest. I realized they were referencing a lot of different reality shows. They had Survivor in there. They had Jersey Shore in there. I guess they mentioned Real Housewives, so that might have been another one. So I realized there were a lot of references. And again, if you like reality shows, probably got some laughs out of it, probably enjoyed seeing a lot of the references made. It's not my thing. And they didn't give me anything to enjoy this episode outside of that. I don't know, it didn't even really feel like there were jokes being made at the expense of these reality shows. It was just, hey, we're going to reference all of these reality shows that everybody watches. It just felt kind of lazy. They just assigned everybody their different reality show references, and that was it. But looking in at the individual stories within this episode, first of all, looking at Bayrod's, I know what they're going for here. I just didn't really feel it. You know, Bayrod's, he's had a couple of more serious moments here or there, but I never really feel like I connect to him. I don't really know why. I don't know if it's just the writing for him is not that interesting, or if there's something whenever he does get more serious that it's just not as well done in the moment. But yeah, they tried to do it again here, where apparently they were on a reality show for his family and they wrote him off the show because he was just sick of being the center of attention and everybody seeing every little thing he does in his life. And if anybody's gone through that, then they'll probably relate to that and go, oh yeah, that really means something. But how many of your audience are actually watching this having been on any sort of reality show or anything that gives you a ton of attention and you feel like you can't just live your life? And to be honest, how many of those reality show people are even living their real lives? I mean, there have been so many stories about, they're just putting on personas for the show. Like, that's not their actual lives. That's just what they have to do in front of the cameras. It feels kind of weird that they went on this little tirade about it. It felt like they were trying to make a stand for all the reality show people that did not need to be made, in my opinion. I will say there is something kind of funny about the fact that they keep calling him a chill guy, and obviously the whole chill guy meme is going around right now. But let's be honest, there's only one chill guy that is the true chill guy. It's Colt Palmer. Absolutely. Up the Chels. Yeah, his and Astra's little romance that they're starting in this episode. I know it's been touched at at other times in this season, but it just feels sort of out of nowhere. And all of a sudden they're talking about, oh yeah, I've had a crush on you for like forever. Oh yeah, maybe I have a crush on you too. Okay, yeah, you've been hinting at it this season. Can we stop acting like this is something that's been building up for a long time? Because Asher's not been on the team for that long. Bayrod's not even been alive for that long. What are we doing? Why are we acting like this is some big dramatic reveal that he's, oh yeah, girl he really, really, really likes? It's a crush. You guys are working together on this team. A lot of you end up liking each other. It happens a lot. So it's just another moment where they're trying to build it up as like this big romantic, oh, isn't that so sweet? It's fine, but it's not as romantic as you're making it out to be. The stuff with Nate and Zari feels like it's not going to come back. Feels like they just wanted to throw something in there for them to focus on. And so, oh, well, Nate, maybe he doesn't want to go live in the totem, and oh, maybe Zari doesn't like the other Zari, and they start bickering and about to sleep together, and I don't know, it's just weird. The stuff with Sarah and Ava and Gwen, I don't know, it feels kind of forced in this episode. I realize that Ava takes on a lot of responsibility, but it feels odd that she's all of a sudden in this episode just, I do too much and you don't really help me and blah, blah, blah. Is this really something that needs to be focused on? But probably the weirdest one for me is the story with Gideon and Gary. Like, already them hooking up was kind of a weird, but it was a little funny, just how it was set up with them talking about experiencing human things, and then Gideon just coming out with it in that episode when they were in Chernobyl. But now all of a sudden it's turning into like a, hey, you need to take us seriously story. Why are we doing this? Why is this trying to turn into like, no, guys, this is real. This is a real connect. This is a funny thing. This is a funny story where an AI was turned into a human this season, and now she's hooking up with this alien who pretends to be human. That's hilarious. That's a funny story. Why at the end of this episode did it turn into like this, hey, you should respect everybody and who they're with. Don't make fun of them. Don't treat them like it's weird. Did the show forget it's a comedy? Because that's comedic potential right there. Because no human in the right mind would want to hook up with somebody who is actually an alien, especially somebody like Gary. I realize that sounds mean, but that's kind of the point. Again, Gary works better as a punching bag for jokes. They've written him as that type of character. That is when he's at his funniest. So the idea that anybody would want to sleep with him should be considered a funny thing. Now it's being treated as like, how dare you? Everybody deserves somebody, guys. Don't laugh at them. Don't think that's weird. They like each other. They like being together. Don't treat them differently because... Shut up! I hate to tell you, but comedy is sometimes hurtful. That's kind of the point. Somebody is always suffering. That is the basis of comedy. That's why you write these characters. That's why you write a character like Gary, because he suffers, and that's funny. But then when you try to treat him like a real person and try to be like, hey, don't treat him like this. That's the way you wrote him. You wrote him to be funny whenever he's in those moments. In fact, it's in those moments, whenever he's not affected by it, that's the best times. You write a character like Gary to suffer a lot, but then he's not fazed by it. When you make him fazed by it, when you make him actually, oh, I'm so hurt, guys, I can't believe you would do that. Now it's not funny anymore, because you start to feel bad for him, and that takes the comedic potential out of the scene. So it's like the writers just want to take away the comedy of this, and I don't understand why. This is a comedy-based show. It's a show that, it's about time travel. About all these weird characters time traveling together and trying to fix the timeline. Why are we trying to take this so seriously? Why are the writers so intent on trying to make us, hey, you better take this seriously. We're taking a stand here. We're going to fix history. We're going to fix all the bad stuff that happened in history, and you better take us seriously. You better treat this show like it's a real thing, because what we're doing here, it's important. It means something. No, it doesn't. So yeah, this whole episode in general was just not enjoyable. I didn't have fun with it. It was a lot of stuff that I don't really like when it comes to the reality show stuff. And some of the stories that they're throwing in there, I don't get it. It's not funny. It feels like they're trying to take the funny away. The only thing that worked was the censoring, and that was it. I didn't even talk about the fact that Bayrod decided to follow Astra for some reason. I realize it's playing into the overarching story where he really likes her and he wants to make sure she's okay. But at the same time, he should trust her to be okay. She's been down there before. She knows what she's doing. Felt weird for him to suddenly just be like, I don't trust her enough to go off on her own and decide to follow her and then mess everything up. But that was more of a minor thing in comparison to all the other stupid stuff that happened in this episode. Yeah, so apparently they're going back to save Archduke Ferdinand. I don't know if this is the real thing, if this is really what they're doing, because the fact that they ended an episode on this, there is a part of me that's going, maybe that's not what's going to happen. Maybe there's something else that they have in mind. And this is kind of just like a big shocking finale for an episode. But if they really are planning to go back and save him and stop World War I from happening, really got to question where the show is going to go. Really got to question what the writers were smoking this season. I will say something that did pop into my head while this episode was happening, just on the idea of changing history and removing a lot of the bad stuff. I will say there's something kind of wrong about that. Doing that basically negates what they went through. For instance, this is a very extreme example. World War II is a great thing to use as far as taking this to the ultimate extreme. Because I talked about them going and just punching Hitler in the face. Let's say that they do something like that. They go, they take out Hitler before he can cause World War II to happen, before he can cause the Holocaust to happen, all of that, and they stop it. You realize how wrong that is? To basically just say, hey, in our world, we stopped this and it didn't happen. There's a lot of people that lost their lives in our world because of that. There's a lot of people that are still affected by that. Could you imagine if they went and stopped something like 9/11 from happening? They stopped something like the Vietnam War? There are people still alive that have been affected. And so to change that in this show, even just changing what we saw 2 episodes ago, where they did the integrated workers in the factory 2 episodes early. I mean, there might still be some people alive who had to deal with that and are looking at it now and going, it's so long ago. And then this show comes out and says, hey, we did it early. We made it happen earlier. Doesn't that feel wrong for your fictional show to be like, we did it better? I don't know. There's just something weird to me about that. They think it's empowering. They think it's powerful that they're doing this stuff. But are they though? Because to me, it just feels like you're negating what people went through by changing history. You're negating all of that by saying, no, we can change this in our show. No, you can't. It still happened. That's not going to change. And the experiences that we have learned from are not going to change. So I don't know. That just, it popped into my head while I was watching this episode. I just kind of wanted to get those thoughts out because just in case somebody is wondering why I seem so upset whenever they change these awful things that happen in history, that's kind of why. To just pretend they didn't happen by changing them in this show doesn't feel right. It feels like you're kind of disrespecting the people who went through a lot of that stuff by doing that. But I digress. We'll see. We got 4 episodes left of this final season. Probably break it up into 2 and 2. So we'll see what happens, but that's it for these 3 episodes. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Let me know what we can talk about and discuss. All that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Legends of Tomorrow reviews. Also check out the channel. We have a lot of TV show reviews as well as a couple Let's Plays on there. So check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you all later. Peace out.